Welcome back to another Celebrity Sweets and happy Tuesday. This is a little different, but today I'm kicking off a 9-part mini-series which will air every Tuesday right here on this channel. So I've upped your video dosage to 3 videos a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. This mini-series is going to be focusing on baking basics. That's the title of this series. And my goal for this series is to give you some basic recipes that I use all the time that you can follow, as well as providing a bunch of different tips and tricks along the way. For today's video, we are going to be making a vanilla cake. It's like your go-to birthday cake. And if you can learn how to make it, I think everything tastes better homemade. I will put the recipe in the description below if you'd like to go down there, after you watch this of course, and check it out. But if you're ready, I'm ready, let's get straight into this. To make this vanilla cake, we are going to start with 2 sticks or 1 cup of unsalted butter. Whenever I bake, I like to use unsalted butter just because then I get to control how much salt actually goes into the cake. If you don't have unsalted butter, you can just omit the salt later on in the recipe or just decrease the amount. We're going to add both sticks of our butter to our stand mixer and beat until light and fluffy. We beat our butter and it's nice and fluffy, and it's always important whenever you're baking, your spatula is probably your best tool because we want all the ingredients to be incorporated at the same time. This also goes for like room temperature ingredients. It's always better to have room temperature ingredients, especially with butter because you saw how easy it was to cream it. But if all the ingredients are at the same temperature when we put it in the oven, they're all going to get to the same temperature and then we have a uniform cake. Before we add in our sugar, we're going to scrape down the sides of our bowl. To our butter mixture, I want to add 2 cups of granulated sugar. Once you've added in your sugar, again scrape down the sides of your bowl. After we added the sugar, now we want to add in 4 eggs, 1 at a time while the mixture is beating. To our wet ingredients, we want to add in 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract. However, if you want to add another flavor or another extract, you'd also do that right now. At this point, your batter should be more on the liquidy side. These are our wet ingredients after all. And you don't want to see any clumps of butter. It should be smooth. We've mixed all of our wet ingredients, so this is going to be our base for this cake. So now I can start to combine our dry ingredients. And always combine your dry ingredients in a separate bowl. That way you're not like scooping things in here and forgetting how much you have. We're going to start with 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. To our flour, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And the last thing we're going to add is 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Once you have all of your dry ingredients in their bowl, whisk it up to make sure that everything is evenly incorporated. We have our dry ingredients, we have our wet ingredients, so now we can make a cake. I've also got some milk over here, and this is going to help us in this process. This is 1 cup of whole milk. Whenever I bake, I use whole milk just because it has more fats. And when it comes to baking, that's kind of what we want. Start with your mixer on low speed and add in half of your dry. Add in all of your milk, and then add in your last half of dry. So right over here we have our vanilla cake batter, and if you want to add food coloring or some add-ins like chocolate chips or anything like that, you'd add that at the end and use a spatula and fold those things in. We don't want to overmix the cake, but if you want to add those things in, you totally can. Now I'm going to place this cake batter into 2 8-inch round cake pans. If you're using another cake pan, I'll put all the equivalents in the description below as well. But I've just greased, floured, and I put a piece of parchment paper on the bottom to make sure that they don't stick. We really want them to come out. And now take your batter and divide it in half. Now we want to take our cakes and pop them into the oven at 350 degrees for 37 to 42 minutes. And here we have them, our vanilla cakes that we made today on our first episode of this Baking Basics mini-series. You can tell that these cakes turned out amazing. When I took them out of the oven, I allowed them to cool for over 30 minutes in their pan because when you're carving or touching hot cake, it's very crumbly and it's really easy to break it. But you can see that they came out perfectly. The piece of parchment paper on the bottom always helps. And they have a little nice round dome to the top of them, which means everything was incorporated well enough and everything rose at the same time. If you happen to use this recipe to make anything, please share it with me on Instagram or Twitter. And if you have any other requests for another Baking Basics episode that you'd like, or any other mini-series you'd like me to try, leave those down in the comments below. Also, don't forget to check back next Tuesday for another treat, along with checking back Thursday and Sunday, still regular uploads. Until next time, bake a cake! I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, let me know by hitting that like button down below. And while you're at it, subscribe. You can do that by clicking this cute little donut right here. If you're looking for more content, up here's my latest video, and down here's what YouTube thinks you should watch. That's all for today. I will see you guys for episode number 2 next Tuesday.